Hey everybody, welcome back to Trekyards. I am Captain Foley.
And I am Commander Coggins. This is the first review of the year. Welcome.
Yay! 2021. 2020 is behind us, thank God. Yeah, today we're going to be reviewing episode 12 of Discovery Season 3, There Is a Tide.
The penultimate of the season. The best season so far. Have they stuck the landing? I don't think we can even judge to the last one because they're leaving everything, still to play for.
Better than last week for sure. And as part of a whole, definitely makes last week's look better, I think. This one is very action packed, very much Die Hard essentially in space, which is a weird thing to say, but at the same time there's too many parallels to not call it that, especially right at the holiday season, because I just watched Die Hard like a week ago. So I think if
I've got your combat transporter. Ho ho ho. Although that said, though, the amount that Burnham's in it is less than you'd think. So actually, it's a lot of other things, which I think I think we're both expecting more just Die Hard.
The one thing I hate about the Discovery is last time on, we're gonna spoil a perfectly good reveal. Remember this guy from the bar? Yeah. Well, guess what? You want to remember him, right? Because I know that was episode 2, but there you go.
Although I totally called he was going to be an X, it makes sense.
You did, and a lot of kudos to you for that, because I didn't expect that. The best parts for me are the dialogue between Osira and Vance. That's very well done. That was more of a twist in the episode than anything. I did not expect that from Osira, but at the same time, I'm thinking there's something still duplicitous going on here. She is just biding time until she can get the spore drive working for herself without the use of Stamets, because her scientist is on board, which I really like that guy. That's very well handled. I like the actor. I'm glad that he's back for another role. I know he was 3 Klingons in the first 2 seasons, so you can see it coming a mile away. He's going to turn on her. And the way he talks to Paul, he understands, and Paul understands him as well. The dialogue between, I just rewatched it, and the dialogue between the two of them is very good as well. So there's a lot of good writing in this one. And yeah, on the surface, you say it's Die Hard in space, but when you really look into it, there's a lot more, especially between Vance and Osira, that I think is very well handled.
Oh, I think it's fair to say the expectations of next week have gone up, which means it'll be easier for them to drop the ball. Which is that's the nature of any film or TV, not Discovery especially. But when you do good, you expect even better next time. But yes, Stuart, it's definitely a good episode. What I like most about it is that it's not where we thought it was going to go. What really made it something that every scene I'm like, where are you going? In a good way. This is interesting. Is the all the Osira stuff, because no one could expect that. It wasn't really set up anywhere, but didn't need to be because it was meant to be this right turn. But I think based on the acting, it's genuine, which is the most interesting thing. We don't know how limited the dilithium stores are. And so if they only have maybe 6 months, and as they said, then our empire falls and we're left with nothing, well, best, make a deal with their devil, and everyone kind of wins. And just those scenes are really, really interesting. And the acting by her is very, very good. It's her best easily. Because it's not villainous per se. I kind of don't like how it turns at the end, but super, super interesting. Vance's acting, again, that guy is just absolute platinum star. The nuance he's giving is really astounding. When in his brain it shifts from they're an adversary to there's a possible peace treaty. I love the nuance and the fact that he tries to plead with her in such a strong way later. It's really, really, really good stuff. And that, I think, is the real beating heart of this episode. Oh, okay, we're going to do this. And I really hope we don't destroy that in part 3, in the next part, of just having her be a villain again, because all that was set up not as a distraction, this is a way of keeping everything going. You can see her point of view. She goes from being this villain to being this really not so sympathetic but understandable character who you want them to succeed. And it's weird to say you want them to succeed and create a new alliance of, but you do, and it's that's very, very well played. And like I say, Vance and Osira sell it. The Die Hard stuff was fine. Obviously too easy that Book happened to have an anti-scan device, just happens to. It's does Starfleet not have several? Why would he only? But that is a conceit, but it was a little bit too easy. And then her walk around the ship, there wasn't much of it, so there's not much to talk about really. But I appreciate that they were able to detect her by the combat thing. Easy, simple, effective, good. Although I can't well, if we're in the 32nd century and their best way of getting rid of a fire is to open an airlock, doesn't work particularly well, especially since, does that Jeffries tube happen to have an airlock on the back? Why would you ever put a Jeffries tube airlock? Doesn't really work particularly well. I'm not going to say it's terrible, but maybe for an NX class I could buy it.
Yes. But we've seen in TNG, they just put a force field around the fire to contain it and let it burn itself out. Yeah. And people are going to scream right now saying, yeah, it's Discovery. It's just post NX, but still pre-TOS. Yeah, but it's been refitted, guys. So that argument's probably going to come up. But I just want to mention that.
And mostly on the outside, but guess what? That tube is on the outside. So they could choose to keep that hole or not, etc. Apart from that, yeah, I liked how little a bridge crew was used, actually, because there's so much other good stuff. They were very much being set up for this next week, although they didn't give them too many lines. I was expecting more from them, but I kind of liked their limited use, as weird as that is. Although I thought bringing back the guy from episode 2 was odd, because he was way less good this week. He wasn't bad, but he didn't have much personality. And you never got the sense in episode 2 that he was higher up in the chain. He was a local crime boss. I mean, okay, brought in as a special enforcer guy, and you could argue because he knows Discovery, although he doesn't, but whatever, brought in. But he was played too important compared to the first time, especially as he failed miserably the first time and he almost died. So that was kind of like a look, it's this guy, rather than hey, it makes sense.
No, I was pleasantly surprised and happy. I kind of figured it'd be part of a 3-parter. I was hoping it would be wrapped up kind of in this one, and the finale would be something else. But
I've been telling you,
I can see why they'll do that. Why they do that. So that's fine.
Although, boy, the lack of dilithium planet was great. Although the Michael and Book getting to them in about 45 seconds. The spore drive, right, is meant to be changing the galaxy. But if you could also get from A to B, also as quickly, and yes, it might be only a small ship can do it, but they did survive. And it wasn't that hard. It was, hard, but either the spore drive is the godsend, or you can still do it otherwise.
At least we got the answer to the transwarp thing. This is what we speculated. There's a bunch of debris in there, mostly Federation ships. Look, a Wanderer class. Oh, we won't be able to reconfigure around that. Reconfigure and right around it. It's like, good job.
Yeah, and also there's clearly a Discovery era nacelle flying. It's lovely out of focus, but you can tell a few of the debris are just Discovery assets. Because why would they build future debris? Although they don't say it's transwarp. And in fact, one of the VFX supervisors, or one of the people that worked on the show, was in a Twitter conversation. They were saying, how come this, and this transwarp? And he was like, oh, it was actually courier network. Because they were asking, how did the person get to thingy? He said, oh, I'll use the courier network. And it's like, no, the courier network is their name for it. It's obviously transwarp, because they said it's not warp. They said they can't go to quantum slipstream. That was in a previous statement, because there's no fuel. So the only other form is transwarp, and we already explained it's difficult. So it's not the courier network. That's just, they call it that, because I presume they know the safest routes. But do you really think that's how? Well, that is how Osira got from A to B through a debris-filled tunnel. Bit weird, and I was really expecting them to come near the end or near the half. So I was blown away by the kind of dumbness of them getting there the exact same time, because it really demystifies everything else. Like I'd argued to you before, you send shuttles with drones aboard with replicators to Federation worlds. Some make it, some don't. Boom, you've got.
It did demystify one thing though. Why they keep the shuttle door open all the time? It's so ships can crash in to save the day. It's very important.
And Sarah asks, how did it get in our bay? Oh, because they leave the door open.
Other than that, I mean, the replicator thing, that's our shit, was very well done. I loved Vance's delivery on that. And people are like, something we've speculated for years has been revealed. It's like, no, we've known that all along. We've been saying that for many years about the replicators. That's how they work. Read the technical manuals.
Yep, it was designed and written down in the 80s. Yeah, I was amazed how many websites took that and roll. I know it's a clickbait title, but it's like, well, yeah.
Just go back and watch some Trekyards. We've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah, that was our first technology. It's in there, I'm sure, from half a decade ago. But the acting of the two sides was great. I just don't get the real world news about it. And I like the fact that we grow real stuff. That was lovely. I was expecting her to say something like, this reminds me of a Tellarite apple, but it's like, oh yeah, they make human apples because why not? They're nice.
But I liked his response to that. You know, this it tastes pretty good for shit, and we don't have to commit atrocities for it. Like, I mean, we know they have a ship that is an all plants ship. It's a rainforest ship, which we saw in one of the episodes where they first arrive at Starfleet. So you'd assume they do have plants of some sort. So I found it a little odd that they didn't have apples per se, but I mean, fine. Whatever.
I would absolutely assume that would A, be for recreation a little bit so people can be sane, but also medicines are more important than food. Like, if you can only grow certain medicinals, like an apple, you can literally replicate 5,000 types of apples, but if you can't replicate this type of, so I'm absolutely fine with that. And I like that interesting parallel.
Oh, I'm fine with it too. I thought it was interesting that that was brought up like that.
It was very that was a good internal understanding of the universe, and the fact they said I've never had a real apple is interesting. Yeah, it puts a certain perspective on the distance of life as well. They haven't got a planet. They haven't got the natural. They've got only what is technology. But I mean, it's not bad. It's just compared to the original, etc. And it's great because this is where I like the cheaper feel of season 3 in some respects. In a lot of respects, it's in the same room with white walls and some LCARs or some displays. Cheap, simple, effective, but then they focus on the really snappy dialogue and performance. You don't need this thing to be in a massive green screen set. You don't need it to be with 25 extras. Like, that was cheap as all hell, and it was the best stuff.
And Janet Kidder, who plays Osira, really impressed me this episode just with her delivery. Like, you go back and watch our reviews. I haven't been a biggest fan of hers for multiple reasons.
The material she's been given.
This one, it was snappy. You're absolutely right. It clicked. It was very well done, and kudos to her and the writing team, because that was awesome.
Although I will say that when she swaps back to being a villain at the end, she became less interesting again. I don't think she hasn't got that charisma and vibe of being a villainess, which is great when she plays it as I am the leader of this organization. I'm trying to do good for billions of people, you dicks, as opposed to ha 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 ha, I'm evil, I'm gonna kill. She's not very good at that. She should be better. But the other stuff, we buy.
Yeah, and I love how Vance even, like, just the way he plays it so calm and cool. And then at the end, he's like, well, I'm going to need somebody that's not connected to you to represent the chain. And by the way, you're going to have to go on trial for all your crimes as a good token gesture, That was so well done, and it pissed her off so much. But it's exactly what needs to be done in that kind of situation. So kudos to Vance for that.
But boy, it blows up so quick. And it's really sad to watch. It's a lot of the episode given to that. Although, honestly, I can see, like, there's so much good. Maybe don't ruin this all just to get her head on a spike. Maybe have something else there to appease people. Because if they're literally going to throw it away, and now all these people are going to die, and all this, that's not worth it just for her not to go on trial. I'm sorry. That's a...
Well, the reason for the armistice was kind of stupid, too. Like, you have a spore drive, which is unreplicatable.
Which they have not said at any point.
Exactly. It pissed me off.
And neither the tardigrade DNA. It's like, oh yeah, we can't replicate it. Where did that come from? Say that in episode 2 then. Jesus.
Exactly. And the whole, we've got the best scientists, so we'll be able to work on this for you.
That was fun. I like that.
And then the whole... Paul, probably bluffing, saying, yeah, it's from a long extinct species. I've tried replicating it, but, it's failed. Lots going on there, but the whole unreplicatable spore drive I thought was ridiculous. Because like we said, it would be cool to have a couple ships spore in at the last second to save the day. They've actually been installing this. I mean, the only thing that's unreplicatable, in my opinion, is Paul, but his link to the mycelium network. But... even the scientists said, well, we can nurture and grow the tardigrades. We got the technology now, so it's fine.
Yeah, it was, such a odd statement because it's just technology.
900-year-old technology.
Which I like.
930, she corrects them, yeah.
Which I like, saying, they must be the pinnacle of technology. Way to pat yourself on the back there, guys. Although, you could argue, though, if it is... Again, this wasn't set up, but if it was not replicatable, then you could argue that's why it was never, ever, ever done again by Void or anything. Like, even with it being, classified, it also was not replicatable, which it could help that. Because, Voyager would, probably have it in their database, and they'd say, we could try it, but we can do, there's too many steps to build it, etc., etc. But it was not set up, and you would think they of all people would be able to replicate it, and then you're just saying, what was it, just a fluke? Like, was it because Paul knew how to use it on two? Well,
even though the Glenn was not successful, really.
But just the tech work, it wasn't. It was just the tardigrade lack of. It doesn't. There's no reason for it to be unreplicatable. It's just technology, and even the tardigrade thing is fine. But you would think they would have met a. You're implying that that the 32nd century have never met a tardigrade ever. In any part of any quadrant, in any dimension, any galaxy, in any universe they've been to ever. It's like, well. But, I mean, hey, at least they give us something. It's just kind of thrown out. Although they could be lying, but it was her that said it and not Vance. I mean, she's not an expert on it, obviously. She hasn't been on the ship. So
he neither confirmed nor denied, but the look on his face was like confirmation. But it would be cool if he was playing something close to the vest, like they've actually got the tech. But he even says to her, why you come to us for help? You've already got Discovery. And that's where she goes into the whole thing about creating the new alliance. You have a chain of planets. We have a federation of mercantile exchange. Like, great twist on or play on words there.
And it is interesting though. Yeah, people. It's all about the distance. As Kenneth said, the guy said that in the wheelchair, he said earlier. In your time, distance was not the issue. In my time, it is. I was ill and I couldn't get anywhere that was able to heal me. Brilliant. That's exactly the sort of stuff that, the burn caused. It wasn't people necessarily. It was just the universe becomes smaller and we can't get places. The spore drive could ultimately change that, although it's still too dangerous because then you can spore anywhere. Warp is at least, takes you 8 hours to get to Chrono. Spore, it takes you 4 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, we might have even had a setup for the Verdrash as well, because we hear about Starbase 235 or 253, whatever it was, that's been dealing with the mercantile exchange for like 89 years because it's so far out there. And when she said that, the look on Vance's face was like, oh yeah, that stings, because it's a Federation outpost that you get the idea that the Federation's been doing shady stuff with the Emerald Chain,
or at least don't we have to do? That's because it's definitely in place episode. They're not as shady as you think they are. Parts of them are shady, but they're also just traders. Like
it was a good reference and a good setup for what's maybe going out in the other fringes there. So
that's what we've said. Season 4 is we found a pocket Federation that went a little bit oh dear.
Yeah, because went a little bit Section 31.
Yeah, because but when about Equinox, because they're isolated, and there's no, and that's interesting. We are at the core Federation, and they kept the ideals because they had to. They got the Federation president, which was mentioned, and thank God that you mentioned the president's on here, but we'll deal them. Speaking of though, I like the way the scientist chap was played, and in fact, the actor actually was commenting on Twitter, and I said, "Hey, he did a phenomenal job. Well done for playing a different voice, character voice," and he actually liked that tweet. So yay. Yeah, very, very different. And we always like different performances. Very nuanced, very light, very soft, very relatable. I wish that we're not going to just turn that into, oh no, Osira's bad. Because he's known her for decades, and he's seen hundreds of good actions, hundreds of good things she's done. Just because she tortures some people doesn't undo the billions she may have saved. So I kind of wish... I was very thankful at the end when the dots appear. I thought that was going to be the wheelchair guy. And I was like, ugh, he's just going to save them. So I was like, okay, good. And I was like, oh god, it's the dots. That's cringe. Okay, but hopefully he'll be more dimensional than that. Although they are setting up for him to be in season 4 as a scientist guy of the future that can be in it, because he was strong actually. Good characterization, good personalization. And I like that he wasn't the guy that made the pesticide thing. He was just part of the team. Like he was, he feels like a gone through the ranks sort of guy, which is very good.
Well, that was well done too. Like Stamets mentions pesticides. Like, yes, a perfect example. I was a junior scientist when that happened. It's like you're so proud of it, but you don't see the other side of it that Stamets is trying to point out.
But Paul also agreed that I don't see the other side either, because I've only heard a few things. So I liked that. I really just hope they don't, because it was so 3-dimensional. I hope they don't just do that again.
The whole she is more than we think, but she's also exactly what we think. Like that was a great line because that's exactly how the character is. So.
And just Stamets' dialogue in general is really not what I was expecting, because he didn't play it as the captive, he didn't play it as the help Hugh until the moments he had to. He played really he was trying to manipulate the guy to a certain point to then get what he wanted, but he was playing a very nice long game, so he was really engaged in it, which was unusual.
It was scientist to scientist, father to father kind of vibe. Although I didn't buy the whole I have a family, a daughter kind of thing for Stamets.
It was that should have been a season 4 thing.
But that really paid off when he found out that Adira was also there. He was worried about Hugh and getting back there right away to save Hugh. Finds out Adira's there, so his whole life is there, and he doesn't want to lose that again. And the way that got twisted with Michael, and the whole, we came to the future for you. Hugh came to the future for you, and she's got to get him off the ship because he's the only way that they can use a spore drive. And that was a great conflict, and again, very well written and acted. And I didn't expect that. But I love the verbal smackdown he gave Michael.
Yeah, and the scenes between Michael and Stamets, I would say are as close to perfect as Discovery's ever done. Like a 9.979. Just in terms of...
It's what you were saying the whole time when they went to the future. Like, most people wouldn't agree to go to the future. Most people would be saying this exact same shit to her in the hallway.
Yeah, for it to come back and to him to put that much blame on her is perfect because, yeah, it was just for you. There was no good reason. It was just for you because we really like you, which is the show thinking we like the character more than we actually like her, which is their problem, not ours, because they've failed to set up. But that, Burnham is a weird one where her entire rep is flaunting the rules. So to see her do the rational solution is always weird. Like it's odd to see her do the status quo, but the power that which she's doing what has to be done here and not giving in to him is so unlike her. She always breaks the rules. You're waiting for her to say, okay, it's fine, Paul, we'll do something together. But the pure strength of that was really interesting. And yeah, you can kind of now start vibe to saying, yeah, she'll be a captain soon, because this is what captains would do. Which was like, that's not what we've been setting up for 3 years, but whatever, it was amazing. And just Stamets, boy. Because yeah, everything he has. And now once he leaves the ship, he won't be able to do anything. He's even more powerless. Just really hard hitting and scenes that are so mature and so powerful to the show. It's really astounding.
The one scene I did not like was where she got stabbed, leaving a blood trail, which is fine. Thought that would come in, and it didn't. Nobody found the blood trail, nothing like that. It was just a...
You get the sense they're like 15 enforcers. It's a very small boarding party, weirdly.
It's just a weird visual, like, here's a blood trail, let's focus on it. Usually that indicates somebody's going to find it, right? Anyway, not a big deal. But her getting in the Jeffries tube and sending an encoded message to her mommy...
Telegraphed or what?
Well, I didn't see it, although it does fall in with the dialogue of, maybe I'll see you in another distant future. Maybe Daddy will be there too. Aw. Stupid. It's setting up for the next episode where the Vulcans or the
Navarians
will be come warping or sporing or jumping or something in to save the day. But you're in Starfleet headquarters. Send an encoded message to, I don't know, Starfleet, instead of trying to get through Starfleet's defense all the way to Navarre, which is I don't know how far away. It just seems stupid and selfish of her to send a message to her mommy because she's in this situation. I don't know. I thought that was out of place.
See, now that you've said it that way around, that's really interesting. Because there's no way that she could send a signal past Starfleet, through their super secret stealth bubble, through it, to the other side of the quadrant, and Starfleet not pick it up. I can't buy that. A strong enough signal like that and they can't pick it up. No chance in hell. But then, that's how it's implied. But yeah, why wouldn't she message Vance first? That's ridiculous. Like, even like a few lines were saying, like, she finishes the communication with Vance, a la Die Hard, 6 bogeys, they've got disruptors, beep. And then that's weird. Although at least Vance was on top of it the entire time. There was no bad admiral. There was no betrayal. There was no any of that sort of. He was absolutely on it.
He was so well played with even them coming up to the shield. He's like, should we let them in? Not yet, because he had his doubts, and then the realization of she's on Discovery. Get every ship, armed and ready to destroy Discovery.
Yep, it was that's how you don't hurt a guy in command. Exactly how it should be played. Really, really well done. And I'm so glad no traitor. I didn't think there would be. And Osira doesn't know much about the spore drive. There is no explanation as to how she knows so much. She doesn't know much. She scanned it once. There isn't much to know.
And she's got a super great scientist who's been reading her scans.
Yeah. So it was super interesting. A lot of the stuff we thought they were going to focus on, they didn't. A lot of stuff they should have focused on, they didn't. But it came together as a really rather strong piece, which it's annoying though how good without the stuff from last week. Like the fact that no mention of that was in it enhanced it so much. And so But the fact that we've now already established that you can get to and from the dilithium-rich planet in seconds or minutes easily. Okay, difficultly, but they're also heroes of the story. They're going to live so easily. I guess he's going to get back in minutes.
I don't know. Another great line, though, for me was, where's Captain Saru? Did you send him to Kaminar? I love that, because she has no clue where the hell he is. She's speculated that he was in the nebula somewhere. She thought maybe, but we brought that up, at least I think I did, in our last review of that, saying, he could be, over in Kaminar. So that was very well done, I think, and well played. Just one little line is all we needed.
And there's loads of those. It's a very logical script with a lot of nice twists. Speaking of then, Booker tells Osira about the dilithium thing, and then our blue guy, Mary Wiseman's husband, is shot out of the picture. Didn't expect that. I don't think he's come back from being disintegrated.
Although somebody mentioned that he had a comm badge, so they speculated maybe he beamed out at the last second. I'll whoever else has done that, because that happened quite a lot. But I really doubt it. I think he is gone, because he was one of those characters that was just kind of there when needed.
Well, he's a functional, yeah. And in fact, the point of that character is to tell a scientist that she's bad. He's seen her murder someone for the first time in cold blood. Wasn't necessary. That's the point. But to tell her where the dilithium thing is, that was a really bad move, because he just sold out possibly the entire quadrant.
Well, he said it to save Ren's life, the Andorian guy, and then it's like, thanks. He could still be lying though. Like if I was her, I wouldn't 100% trust him on that. So,
but we know as the audience, in his mind, that felt too much. Like, it's just an excuse to get her back there. Maybe, I don't know.
He also said as an excuse to save his own life, because he said, I know, yeah, it's in the nebula, but it's hard to get through that nebula. I know a safe way through. So he still might be, has some kind of game plan of, if they get there, lead her somewhere else, or I don't know.
Although the irony is, it's a bit of a silly statement to say, I know where it is, it's a really big nebula, hard to find. I know they had the signal, but it was at the centre of the nebula. Where would you look first and scan first? The centre. And you don't get a sense of a very big nebula, because they go through it pretty quickly. So, just saying, it didn't quite play as being like... It's like if you said, we found it in the briar patch, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's a big gaseous thing. It could be, we had to know where the Baku planet is. But it was like, no, it's just the centre of this medium to small nebula. It's not going to take 25 minutes. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like saying there's a chest full of gold coins buried in that field over there. I can show you exactly where it is, or you could spend a good day or two digging up the whole thing. You're going to find it regardless. One's just
and
more
the field's only your garden.
Yeah, your backyard.
The dots, the last shot, the sphere data dots. Your thoughts?
I thought it was interesting, them installing their own operating system on the ship, working, and the only thing that we can't get rid of is this small piece of human entertainment. And it's like me when I run out of room on my C drive. How much room is it taking up? That's too small. Don't even worry about it. I thought, okay, the sphere data is sometimes like zipped itself into this small little thing. That's fine. But I like the idea of it being in the dots. As much as I hate the dots, and these are the future dots, these ones. These aren't the old school ones.
Which would be fine if these are the first ones. It's just annoying they had them in the past. That's the only problem with them, really.
Yes. Yeah, well, exactly, yes. And we saw these in the opening. When we first saw the opening for this season, we talked about these. That's going to be important at the end. Sure enough, there they are. The evidence is in the opening credits.
But I'm okay with that being one episode and for a split reason. So I'm actually...
Yeah. I kind of like the fact that the sphere data is transferred into those, just because it makes sense to compartmentalize that from the ship. But as that being like, hey, we're going to save the day, it's kind of like R2 showing up, like, oh yeah, everything's fine now. R2's here. I was kind of happy to see them, honestly. As much as silly as it was, I thought, okay, at least there's some kind of explanation here. The sphere data is in these droids now, which droids are more useful than a ship, you would think, almost, because they can. Well, that being said, no, it's better to be in the operating system because you can shut down parts of the ship. But
yeah, my big nose is a bit cringy. That's kind of my biggest thought. It's just like it's not bad as a concept. It's just like, because it tells you next week we're going to have dots flying around and just, like, through the turbolift corridor roller coasters. Like, we're going to see them flying through all this garbage stuff. You know, like, it tells you the weird stuff's going to happen, because that's not, that, like, it was very grounded this week. Those are not grounded. Literally. But I did absolutely adore the overwrite operating system. That was a beautiful touch I wouldn't even thought of, and it's awesome. Really, really nice. Because, yeah, like, why would you let them and their security systems stop you? Just delete it, put a new one in, boom, you got the ship. You know, remember we talked about last week about access codes. How she got them? No, she deleted them. The whole thing, just brought a new one. That's great. That's a really brilliant concept. But then,
over a ship and install your own operating system. Awesome.
But I didn't like the idea that the sphere data was explicitly said to be this obscenely large amount of information, like a massive portion of the system, and so it plays as really quite stupid that there's nothing, almost nothing left. That this little bit of code, I don't buy the dots can hold that stuff. Okay, maybe yes, if you say there's 100 dots and they all take a percentage, but if this thing spanned, it doesn't. I like the idea that maybe she had to. Maybe, because again, we're going to Calypso, but that doesn't connect properly. It's been disconnected for a while now. So the thing's already clearly evolved. It's already clearly a person. Skip that, fine. But I would like there to be this little intel narrative that maybe Sphere Data actually had to delete a boat ton of itself to survive. And so it's going to reset into not a life form as much, or like personality over data. Because, you know, long play is more important. And so I can only save 50% of myself in the dots, and now I'm less than I was, and that'll sort of delay its evolution a bit.
Well, you got to think too. If some of the dots get destroyed in the next episode, it might have to take a while to get that information back or something.
Although you'd also think that the dots would easily be able to, because they're independent, they'd easily able to like send a signal to. Because if Burnham can send a signal out and not be jammed, why can't the dots send a signal Starfleet command and then download themselves into that and then or you know leave the ship via an airlock, because they can do that, and now you've got, you know, so there's it opens up a really dangerous door, again, MacGuffin door.
Do you want to bet in the next episode that Michael's going to be being led down a corridor, she's going to see a dot coming the other way, and it's going to stop and like wink at her, and she's going to be like, what? Anyway, guys, I think that's it for our review. I think we've covered everything. I'm sure we haven't covered everything. That's what our full review is for later today. It's going to be at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so tune in so that you don't miss it. Samuel hates that idea because it's now early, but that's okay. We usually go 3 hours on these ones because there's a lot to talk about. So tune in at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 9 p.m. in the UK. And by all means, put your comments down below. This was not a live review, even though it's premiered and you thought it was live the whole time. Ha! Fooled you. Anyway, join us for the live later, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel and notified so you don't miss any of the live reviews or anything that we do, because we do cover a lot of stuff and we love having you guys join us to take part.
And of course, Sports Directly, you've seen how much content we do during the Discovery Picard Lower Decks season. It's a ton. And we do need some direct support from you guys. The Patreon, which is monthly, the Join the Channel, which is monthly, the PayPal, which is one time, at trekyards@hotmail.com, or Super Chat in the lives. We do lives on all different sorts of topics, including these Discovery reviews and just general. They all matter, make a difference. If you can help, even a $5 Super Chat a month for saying hi, saying awesome job, makes a difference, especially in 2021 where the shows all stop. We need that income to show we can keep doing it and develop and do more things. We always have plans, but without that, you know, rent paid, etc., we just can't do them. Support if you can. If you can't, watch for free, say hi in the comments. The algorithms like the interaction.
That's right. So until next time, whenever it is that we see you, hopefully for the live, I'm Captain Foley.
And Connor Kungs.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.